there any benefit to creating Web 2 blog posts, drive stacks, or any other online properties that can be made for free in an attempt to strengthen the brand if they don't get indexed? Well, you know, if you're doing them properly, they can be indexed. Google Drive files will index, guys. Okay, Google Drive files will index, and yes, there is a benefit from them, even if they don't index. Something doesn't have to be indexed for it to provide SEO benefit, right? Link equity transfers from posts or pages that aren't indexed. It's better if they're indexed for sure, but you can still transfer link equity. I've done specific testing on that. So you can get a benefit from links that are coming from pages. Look, just because it's not indexed doesn't mean Google's hasn't crawled it, right? In order for you to receive benefit from a link, Google has to know that that link exists, which means all Google has to do is crawl the page, the referring page that contains the link. That's it. It doesn't have to be indexed to produce value. Google just has to be aware of the link, which means the page that contains the link has to be crawled by Google. It doesn't have to be indexed. Okay. And I've done testing on that. So I know for sure that you can extract value from links from pages that are not indexed. Now, getting links from a site that's been de-indexed, that's different. The difference between getting a link from a site that's de-indexed and getting a link from a site that just has pages or posts that aren't indexed. There's a big difference between that. Okay. So, but drive stacks and all that, they're Google properties. Do you think Google's aware of the links within those documents? Of course they are. It's a Google property. That's why we build drive stacks. That's why Semantic Mastery and my former partner, Marco Benavides, created drive stacks to begin with, way back in 2015. It was funny because I had a sales call with a support call with a link building client. And he was asking me today, he was asking me specifically about drive stacks and Google stacks. And I mentioned to him, I was like, did you know we were the ones that actually launched that kind of in 2015 were the first ones to come up with that? He was like, no kidding. It's like, yep, pretty proud of that because they still work to this day because they're Google properties, guys. You can push a lot of authority through Google properties very quickly. Okay. Many times it's Google Docs or Drive links, Web 2 blog posts or properties are not indexed to Google. That's correct. A lot of the times they're not, but you can get them indexed. Again, Web 2.0s, by the way, guys, a lot of the times, like for example, I use Majestic as my backlink analysis application, and Majestic automatically filters out a lot of Web 2 stuff until you build some strength, some link strength into it, and then it will recognize it and show it in your, it's not that Majestic doesn't recognize it. Majestic doesn't show what it considers very low quality, insignificant links. If there's not enough strength from the link, that's the difference between what Majestic calls its historic index and its fresh index. Its fresh indexes are only the links that it thinks are valid and relevant and provide some measure of value. But historic index will have everything. And so what I'm saying is like Web 2s will typically be kind of fairly ignored until you start to push some authority and relevance into those assets, which is why we teach to build branded and supporting assets initially, right when you start a campaign, and then you force Google to recognize all of those branded and supporting assets. How do you do that? There's a number of ways to do that. Link to them from Google Business Posts. Again, guys, I don't understand why so many people have a hard time, and just don't do this in the SEO industry. Go do a brand search for whatever brands you're working on. For any of your clients, go do a brand search. Preferably, if it's a local business, go geolocate the brand or the search, the browser first. So the search settings. Let me just show you an example. Okay, this is the Bright local search checker, right? This is free. You can use this for free. If I want to, let's just use the Louisville Felling Pro project as an example. So I'm going to put Louisville KY down here to simulate a search for as if I were standing in Louisville, Kentucky, or somewhere in Louisville, Kentucky, right? And then go do a brand search. Sorry, I had a typo for a minute. It threw me off. Go do a brand search. What you want to do is look at the first 2 pages of the search results, and you want to determine how well developed is the knowledge graph for this specific brand, this branded location. Okay, so branded business location. Because remember, you can be a multi-location brand. So what we're trying to do is identify how well developed is the knowledge graph for that specific branded location, which is why we geolocate the browser to simulate a search from where the project is located. The GBP is physically located. and then you do a brand search and look at the top 2 pages. You should pretty much own, or that business should pretty much populate all 20 of the top 2 pages with branded or supporting assets or external page URLs that have accurate information published about this specific business location. Do you understand? That indicates that the knowledge graph is well developed. If it's not well developed, if you don't pretty much own the top 2 pages, and by the way, I pretty much own 100%, right? Take a look at this. Every one of these: money site, ID page, Google site, Web 2.0 blog. That's one of WordPress's blogs. MapQuest citation, press release. This was from a premium distribution. So that's Yahoo Finance. Derby City Tree. That's a RankJacker site for some testing stuff that I was doing. Another Felling Pro page. Weebly, another Web 2.0 asset. These are all the assets that Huzaifa was just mentioning typically don't get indexed. There's nothing special about this. Why is it indexed then? Because we spoon feed Google with the data that we want Google to pull into the knowledge graph. This is what I was getting at with this. First and foremost, guys, your local business project. Now we're on page 2. Strikingly, Facebook, another Felling Pro page. Nextdoor, so Citation Vault, Tumblr, another Web 2. Apple, another citation from Yext Power Listings. Felling Pro, another Google site page from the same Google site, right? Cake.me, another Web 2.0. You guys understand, I own 100% of all 20 results for a brand search for this particular brand. So that's first and foremost. This knowledge graph is very well developed. Why? Because of specifically what we do to help Google develop the knowledge graph the way that we want it to, which is, again, now in this is a very poor example because this is a lead gen asset and I am not publishing Google business posts. But one of the ways that you can force Google to pull data into a knowledge graph, or at least encourage Google to pull data into a knowledge graph, is to link out with the Learn More button, so the CTA button, to external page URLs that have accurate information published about the business. Guys, that is a direct linked connection from the Google business profile to brand supporting assets or data that corroborates how the GBP is optimized. So Google has little choice but to pull that data into the knowledge graph for that particular brand. Google Business Posts is one of the most powerful things that you can do to link out to page URLs that have accurate information published about the business. That can be any type of citation. Remember, a traditional or structured citation is a business directory listing, but an unstructured or non-traditional citation is any published mention of name, address, phone number, and website, or some combination of those data points. It doesn't matter where it's published. It's just any published mention. That is a citation. So an unstructured citation can be a Web 2.0 profile, a Web 2.0 post, a press release, social media posts, social media profiles, video citations, where in the description of the YouTube video you have a name, address, phone number, and website mentioned, right? Image citations, document citations. Google Docs are document citations, right? All of those things become citations. Any page URL that you can index in Google that has accurate information published about the business now becomes a URL that you want to spoon feed back into Google. How do we do it? Through Google Business Posts, Learn More button, CTA button, same as attributes and schema. Again, back to my audits, guys. I always talk about this. It's an entity analysis, which is the first section of my audits. I check first brand search. Does it pop a knowledge panel? Then number 2 is 80 brand search supporting assets. Of the top 2 pages, you should have 16 or more, so 80% or greater of the top 20 results should be branded or supporting assets specifically mentioning that particular branded location, especially when you have a geolocated browser for the location that the GBP is registered in, and then you do a brand search. You should own the top, basically all 20 results should be specifically mentioning that particular location. If it's not, then you have entity work to do first. Before you start building links, before you start doing all the other things, you should be making sure that the knowledge graph is well developed so that Google has a good understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. And you have provided Google with enough supporting and validating evidence to corroborate that information. Does that make sense? And so then the next step then is, are supporting assets discoverable? So I go check, are they publishing posts regularly and linking out to branded and supporting assets? I check the schema. Does the schema have same as attributes? Let me show you. In the local business schema, the same page URLs that you want to collect and build links to or link to from the GBP with Google Business Posts, then you want to also reference those same page URLs in the same as attributes for the local business schema, right? Because that tells Google that these are where we also have a presence on the web, where this business has a presence on the web. Do you understand? And then, so I'm going to show you that over here. So we're going to go take a look at the location landing page for the Louisville Felling Pro project. What do we see? Local business schema with the appropriate subtype, home and construction business. And you'll see the same as attributes. These are the page URLs, guys, that I'm talking about. You want to extract all the page URLs that you can find indexed in Google that have a citation. Whether it's structured or unstructured, doesn't matter. It has to be accurate information, though. And then you reference all of those in the same as attributes of the ID page. Link out to them with Google Business Posts with the Learn More button regularly, because that, again, direct link connection from the GBP to what you want Google to understand about the business. Okay. Then number 3 is the ID page. So what do you see up here, guys? ID page. And again, this is all in the audit documents that I do, right? GB Post, schema, and ID page. That's how you improve brand authority very quickly. And you can do this in less than 30 days, guys. You can populate the top 2 pages almost 100%. We've got a service called Brand Builder specifically for that. It's $549, and we can guarantee within 28 days, 4 weeks, you're going to own the top 2 pages of the search results. So that's strengthening the local entity, the local brand, right? And so then lastly is the ID page. So again, if we go take a look at this, this is the ID page, which has been developed specifically so that we can reference all of those page URLs and provide it in one dedicated resource. That is precisely what an ID page is supposed to be for, guys. A dedicated resource, a unique resource identifier that when provided is a resource that the search engines can go to where they can corroborate or validate local entity information. So what do I mean? Well, you can see this is optimized with a semantic triplet statement: who we are, what we do, subject, object, predicate. Who we are, what we do, where we do it. Louisville Felling Pro is the brand. Tree Service, the product or service entity. And Jefferson County is the location entity, right? And so this is saying, and then in here on this page, when I say we reference all of the external page URLs, branded and supporting assets, we do it a number of ways. We either embed it, hyperlink to it, or we put them into a G sheet, the URLs for all those page URLs in column B. Column A, we put keywords that are relevant to that industry or that for that business. And then in column C, we concatenate the keywords with the URLs to create anchor text links that are in a published G sheet. Then we grab the embed code and we embed the G sheet into the ID page. And then we designate the ID page in the add ID field of the local business schema so that when Google comes and recrawl this page, it will then go to this resource, where then once it gets to this resource, it spiders out to every single page and post, page URL that's indexed in Google that has accurate information published about the business. So when Google comes and crawls this, it then goes out and says, oh, okay, here's all of the places that there are, or all the page URLs in Google's index that have accurate information published about the business, right? You see how, again, Louisville Felling Pro, this is just a Web 2.0 profile, but it doesn't matter. It's talking about Louisville Felling Pro, right? So we go ahead and add that in there. We'll just scroll up and pick another one. Okay, here's another one. This one looks like this one may have been terminated or suspended. It does make sense to modify and clean these up occasionally, guys, because there will be links that will break and stuff like that. But let's see, here's another one, tree trimming service. That's all it is. So this is just another page URL that has a link to us. So all I'm saying, guys, is that all of this stuff is one way that you can very quickly build authority and strength to a local brand. And all of those Web 2.0 assets and everything, you notice in my project here, how a lot of those are indexed that you're saying don't index. There's nothing special about these, right? Like, let's look at what was the one that I was looking at a moment ago? Here, this one. There's nothing special about these. There's not like a lot of content on these or anything else. But why are they being picked up then? Instead of not being indexed, as Uzaifa was mentioning, that they typically aren't indexed. Because they're put into things like this, right? The ID page. Right, the ID page, if we go back to this ID page, you'll see, and I'll show you if we go look at Majestic, we have links built to this ID page. Look at the trust flow values. Look at the topical trust flow categories. They're 100% relevant. And so if the ID page becomes a central hub where you consolidate and reference all of the branded and supporting assets and external page URLs that have accurate information published about the business, and then you start building links consistently to the ID page, which is what I started showing you this one for, that's a tier 0 asset, guys. And if you reference all of your tier 1 branded assets and external page URLs in that asset and then build links to it, Google has no choice but to pay attention to it. Do you understand? That's how you populate the top 2 pages very quickly, because you force Google to recognize them through Google Business Post, which this is a very poor example of that. The ID page, which can rank, and also once designated in the add ID field of local business schema, Google will become aware of all of those other assets. And then in order for them to become more valuable, more powerful, push link equity with the appropriate topical and or geographic relevance into those assets. The most efficient way to do it is through an ID page, because it's one centralized location that you can build links to then push link authority and relevance into all of those branded and supporting assets. You understand? It's a very powerful strategy. There's a reason why I've been teaching the ID page method since 2019, 5 years now. It's because it works. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. All right, moving on, because I spent a lot of time on that. Sorry, but I think it's important for you guys to understand that. Next